Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. It was another wonderful day in Konoha. The sun was shining, all the birds were singing, and the bees were buzzing. It was another day of the usual normal routines where the last loyal Uchiha of Konoha secretly looked at picture of boys to masturbate his tiny to in order to handle his morning wood ritual. The Hyuga clan members were all stuffing there with fate-loving ego-sized sticks like they do every morning, with one of its female members being known for her shyness being the exception, and woke from her dream of a blonde boy named Uzumaki Naruto, now up to face another day. Speaking of Uzumaki Naruto, Kami, I hate this headache, said one 11-year-old Naruto from within his apartment while on his bed while grumbling about the fox screwing with him. Yes, that's right. Naruto knew about the fox. Kind of hard not to after the two met when the boy was 5 years old after some jerk tried to kill him for the 100th time in the last 2 months with a lead pipe. Of course, while unconscious from the attack, it gave Kyuubi temporary control of the boy, and the fox took that opportunity to take his own pound of flesh from the stupid human. Or rather half the man's body before leaving what was left to be eaten by hungry animals. After that happened, Kyuubi took the boy's body home, and sat it right on the bed before retreating back into the mindscape of the child to explain a few things. The boy's parents, to the events leading to the ceiling, and the real villain responsible for the fox's attack years ago on the leaf. In truth, Kyuubi thought Naruto took it pretty well considering the kid was so young, and having this dumped on him. All Kyuubi had to pay was hearing the kid let out an angry pain-filled yell at the injustice done to him that caused his ears to bleed for over an hour. Since then, Naruto had been trained in secret by Kyuubi in a few things, and had taught the boy to keep it a secret just in case some people in Konoha learn of it. Not that what Kyuubi taught the boy was harmful, but rather a means to survive in Konoha, and not take so much of their shit. Kyuubi taught Naruto how to read, write, and math for when buying things at stores that Naruto sensed would treat him fairly. That was more of a gift on Kyuubi's part in sensing these things, but still a valuable one nonetheless, and it served Naruto well. Another thing Kyuubi did was purge the signs of malnutrition from Naruto's body using his chakra with what little could be given due to the seal limiting the amount, but what was given was enough to do the job. And Naruto not eating ramen constantly under the fox's advice helped too. Relax, Kit. You know it's just me tinkering with your eyes a bit. Calm down. Besides, what I've been doing will give you a needed edge in surviving Konoha, and can be used in interrogating enemies via hypnotic suggestions, commands while forcing their will into submission when in your presence. Though personally, I would prefer it used on the hot bitches this village has to offer, and make them your slaves, said Kyuubi, letting out a perverted giggle, making Naruto sigh before shaking his head and letting out his own little perverted giggle. Did we mention that the fox was a pervert? Well, he is one, and he passed that on to Naruto along with his ways of knowing women. First thing was all women, according to Kyuubi's point of view, were all crazy bitches in some shape or form. There were the loud crazy bitches, the silent crazy bitches, and then there were the kind of bitches who were hypocritical. To men, no matter what the male gender does, if a man lies to a woman, then they're considered scumbags, and if a man tells the truth, then they are still considered scumbags. Just honest scumbags. Second thing was to beware of feminist women, who hate men, and want to break every testicle on every man in a 20-mile radius of them. Personally, Kyuubi had nothing against equality, but if a woman kicks a guy in his sperm makers just because the guy is a guy, then she's going to get a hit of her own in retaliation, either to her face, or get one mean titty twister with a nice clamp on the nipple while it was still twisted for good measure. It's bad enough I'm well endowed for my age thanks to you, but getting a bloodline like that isn't something I'm looking forward to explaining in front of the old man, and then coming up with a reasonable lie to get him off my back, thought Naruto, as he blamed Kyuubi for being well hung at such a young age after purging the malnutrition from his body, and the occasional healing done with the excess chakras slipping into his limbs to strengthen them further. Oh please. We both know you would have been well endowed even without me sealed inside your body. I just sped up the process. Besides, you should be glad to have such a thing between your legs now, and know how to use it after learning from my years of experience in pleasing the female gender, said Kyubi, giggling perversely again. Like any girl, much less a woman in Konoha, would want me for such a thing, thought Naruto, as he went to his bathroom, did his morning ritual of cleanliness, and then got dressed for a day of learning at the academy. Well, if you could call what they taught at the academy a form of learning. They mostly taught history, some minor academy taijutsu, and basic ninjutsu that would need honing by parents wanting their children to be the next Hatake Kakashi. Naruto didn't have such people to guide him, except Kyubi. Not according to that Hyuga girl I saw the other day secretly using her eyes on you and then get a mean nosebleed seconds later. But then again, I could be wrong, and that dear boy is where your new bloodline is going to come in, thought Kyubi with a grin on his face, knowing when push came to shove his vessel would do what needed to be done regarding these uptight, unsatisfied in bed, and crazy bitches within Konoha. Unaware of Kyubi's line of thought, Naruto headed via rooftop to the academy, and prepared for another boring day at the academy. Later that day, well, that was a complete waste of time, said Naruto to himself, since it was nothing new to learning what he didn't already know, and once more the teachers were trying to sabotage him. All in all, nothing new. Shame you can't bring any kind of evidence to the Hokage about this. He'd be able to help you then. For what little help he's provided anyway, said Kyubi, knowing the old man had been able to give Naruto little to nothing in terms of a decent life, being the fox's vessel. And don't get him started on overhearing the argument on what to do with Naruto once they learned of his status. All the kill the demon, turn him into a weapon, and so on was really getting old for the fox. Seriously, why couldn't they just leave him and Naruto alone to do whatever they want? Oh yeah, Kyubi was a demon, and humans can't stand demons despite humans being considered far worse at times. Hypocritical bastards. How's the bloodline coming along anyway? Thought Naruto, deciding to speak within his mind, knowing to do otherwise in public would turn heads his way more than necessary. Almost done. You may feel a small stinging sensation right about now, said Kyubi before completing his task and connected his masterpiece to the boy's biological data. Naruto winced in pain at the sudden rush of nerve receptors in his eyes caused him to not see straight, which at the time could not be worse, as he bumped into the one person in Konoha who had a life almost as shitty, and was currently having her happy time ended by the Kyubi vessel. Her name of Mitarashi Anko, who was the former failed student of the traitor Orochimaru, and was part of the I&T department while being the second most feared interrogator in the Leaf. At the moment of Naruto's wincing, he had bumped into Anko currently eating some dango from a bag she bought at half prices thanks to the very rare coupon she acquired from Ibiki, who gave it to her for some overtime she did, and now that bag of dango along with the one in hand that was her favorite flavor was now on the ground. Before a bunch of stray dogs got to them. No, yelled Anko in a dramatic fashion. Ow, what hit me? Damn it, Kyubi. The pain in my eyes won't let me see straight, said Naruto to himself before seeing Anko going from dramatically sad to angry psycho bitch in 2.5 seconds. Kit, you better run, said Kyubi, seeing that look promising pain. Why can't I use my bloodline you so painfully gave me? Thought Naruto, finding the pain lessening. Not yet. You need about 10 minutes before it can be triggered, and from the looks of things, this lady is not going to give you those 10 minutes, said Kyubi, now wishing he had waited until Naruto had gone to the safety of his home before doing this. Oh, crap, thought Naruto before hightailing it out of there with Anko hot on his heels, with Kunai out trying to spill some of his blood for what she considered to be the ultimate sin in her eyes. Get back here, Gaki. I'm going to kick you so badly your future children will look deformed, and that is if I let you have children when I'm done with you, said Anko, as she was pissed off, and had it not been for her crazy state of mind she would actually be impressed the boy had done so well to dodge her kunai. Damn, I need to get somewhere out of the public eye so I can use my bloodline on her when I'm able to awaken it, thought Naruto, as he made his way to an empty training ground, dodging Anko's projectiles, and trying to make it to the forest. He would have had Anko's last one caught the sleeve on his right shoulder that stuck him to the tree, with another doing the same when trying to remove it. That was followed by several more well-thrown kunai hitting sleeves of his shirt at the elbows. Got you, Gaki. Damn, that was one hell of a chase. Been a while since someone led me on one of these. Still, don't think because I'm impressed that I'm going to show you mercy when I humiliate you, and get my revenge for the loss of my precious dango. Said Anko, grinning joyfully at getting her revenge. Kyuubi, what's the ETA to the bloodline kicking in? Thought Naruto, seeing Anko now approaching him. Less than a minute. Stall her, said Kyuubi, counting down the remaining time. Wait. Stop. I didn't mean to bump into you on purpose. It was an accident. A sudden pain hit my eyes and I couldn't see clearly, said Naruto, seeing Anko look at him with a raised eyebrow. Really? You are going to expect me to believe that? Said Anko with her hands on her hips. What? You've never heard of bumping into someone being an accident? What possible reason could I have for doing it on purpose? None, said Naruto, seeing Anko think about it for a second. I suppose you have a valid point. Bumping into me is the last thing people do when I'm around and with dango in my hands, said Anko, with Naruto letting out a sigh of relief at his words reaching her. That's good, thought Naruto before Anko's face became devious again. But that won't get you off the hook with me, kid, said Anko, seeing Naruto's disbelief in her words. What? Even though me spilling the dango was accidental? Said Naruto, not believing this woman was going to hurt him for something he didn't mean to do. If it makes you feel any better, after I beat the stuffing out of you, I will knock you out before I strip you, and hang you by your hands in the village square for all to see, said Anko like it was simple before reaching for him. ETA on the bloodline, fox, thought Naruto, knowing it was now or never with this thing. 5 seconds. When it happens, channel chakra to your eyes, and when you feel the change say, submission I, while making contact with hers, said Kyuubi, counting down the last 5 seconds going by slowly. Any last words before you have to change your name, appearance, and overall identity in the leaf, little man, said Anko sadistically before putting her hand on his crotch and feeling how big it was while trying to intimidate her prey to wet himself in fear of losing the thing between his legs. Done. Do it now, said Kyuubi, knowing the time to use the eyes. Yes, I do. Submission I, said Naruto, as he did what Kyuubi told him to do, and felt his eyes change while staring directly at Anko. Anko, for her part, was too shocked to see the eyes Naruto had changed from blue to purple with a sparkling light dancing around the pupil, and couldn't look away from them. She felt the rational mind being quieted, as Anko fell to her knees, and was at Naruto's mercy. What is going on? Why does it feel like I've just got string attached to my body and I've turned into this kid's puppet? Thought Anko, as she saw Naruto looking back at her with cautious eyes, and found herself unable to look away from his eyes. Can't believe it worked. Thank you, Fox. Now on to business. What is your name, rank, and current status of being a shinobi? Said Naruto, wanting to have a name to his psycho bitch of an attacker. Mitarashi Anko. Leaf Shinobi, ranked Special Junin. Current status is working for the INT while being second in leading it next to Ibiki, said Anko while mentally wondering what was coming over her to tell him so much info right off the bat. So I outran a Special Junin for nearly 10 minutes. Not bad. Tell me, Anko-chan, were you really going to do all you said you were to my body, and even after learning it was an accident? Said Naruto, narrowing his eyes at her and unknowingly increasing the power behind his eyes. Not all of it. I was going to hurt you a little before knocking you unconscious, but then I was going to return you home, and steal a pair of your underwear to hang in the village square, said Anko, seeing Naruto getting angrier. I see. Well, Anko-chan, I'll have you know what happened was an accident, and I did feel badly about bumping into you earlier. I was hoping that once it was explained to you that it was in fact an accident, you would forgive me, and we let ourselves go our very much separate ways. Perhaps you should have now that you're within my power, said Naruto, feeling angrier and somewhat different right now towards this woman while hearing the Kyuubi's words from past lessons about women running through his head. Oops. I forgot to mention to the kid about the side effect of using the eyes would bring about a perverted nature aimed towards the opposite. Oh well, he'll learn it soon enough, thought Kyuubi, as he could feel the various emotions running through his vessel's mind right now, and the fox had to admit the woman in front of the boy had dressed rather erotically. Listen to my voice, Anko-chan, as my words are now law to you, and will be obeyed as if I was the Hokage of the leaf. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Do you understand? Said Naruto, firmly, seeing the woman's glazed eyes get even glazier at his words. Yes, Naruto-sama, said Anko, nodding while the rational part of her mind was trying to break free with little success. Good. Now, as I was saying, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, and from this day forward you are my slave. My bitch. You will address me as Naruto-sama, Naruto-kun, or master when we are alone. Anything I ask you to do will be done without question, with any kind of questioning brining about punishment, unless the command I give warrants one to further help please me, and nothing less than your best efforts to please me will suffice. If I need to alter your mindset regarding our private life, I will use my bloodline to do so, and you will accept it, said Naruto in a commanding tone, with Anko nodding dumbly again. Yes, Naruto-sama, said Anko simply. Good. Now for a more deeply imprinted command. Anko-chan, when I deactivate my bloodline, you will free me from this tree, and apologize for being a total bitch to me before kissing my feet. You will then pick me up and take me back to my place for some much needed food and rest with you sleeping in my bed for the night. You won't complain, you won't protest, you won't report anything we do that goes on within my apartment to the Hokage. Got it, said Naruto, seeing Anko nod a little faster at the hypnotic command. Yes, Naruto-sama, said Anko, waiting with her hand on her lap like a student awaiting the commands of her teacher. Begin, said Naruto before deactivating his bloodline and seeing Anko shake her head in confusion. Ow, my head. What the just happened? I remember losing my dango, then chasing some blonde gaki, and now I, said Anko, as she shook her head from the headache she felt, and then looked at Naruto's pinned form. Now you have me pinned here on an accident, Anko-chan. A simple misunderstanding, said Naruto, putting on the sad innocent look that would further influence Anko's hypnotic-induced commands. Oh Kami. I'm sorry, said Anko, as she felt this went against her nature, but yet couldn't stop herself from apologizing anyway, and freed Naruto from his pinned down position. It's all right, Anko-chan. I'd be the same way if it was ramen. Can you take me home? I am tired from all the running around we did earlier, said Naruto while inwardly smirking and Kyuubi rolling around in his cage laughing his tails off. The only thing that could make the fox's day any better would be if Uchiha Madara got incurable rectal cancer. Akatsuki HQ. Madara felt his clench for a second and shivered. Something wrong, said Pain, seeing Madara shake his head. No, I just had this sudden feeling of dread. Excuse me while I see a doctor about a personal matter, said Madara before leaving to have his examined. Back in Konoha, Naruto's apartment. Got to hand it to you, Kit. First time using your brand spanking new bloodline and already you got yourself a nice bitch to bang, said Kyuubi while Naruto ate the prepared meal of steak, mashed potatoes, and glass of milk prepared for him by Anko, currently with the small exception of the tiny apron that barely hid her sacred treasure. Yeah, and she can cook a good meal. I think I'll keep her around, thought Naruto, as he turned to see Anko looking a bit nervous, and still possessing side of guilt for all of the chasing him around Konoha. Is everything to your liking, Naruto-sama, said Anko, as her hypnotic programming had kicked in the moment she had carried him into the apartment, and set him down on his bed. Hell, Anko didn't even realize she had called him Naruto-sama outside of the hypnotic state his eyes put her in, and immediately obeyed his commands on the preset she was doing all of this to make it up to him. So what if she was practically in a kid's home several years her junior, cooking him dinner, and not caring she was going to sleep in the same bed with the blonde. She was just being friendly. Helpful even. There was nothing really bad about the boy's commands to do these things for him. Right. Yes, it was Anko-chan. Everything was perfect. That's the best meal I've had in a long time, said Naruto, finishing up his meal before walking over to his couch, unbuckled his pants, and letting it fall to his ankles while sitting on the piece of furniture with a sigh of happiness showing on his face. Anko soon came into the living area with a blush on her face, as she sat down next to him, eyeing his bulge in his boxers, and had to admit to herself the boy was endowed down there. She figured it was because of the fox sealed inside of him on account of the way a female shinobi would have huge S, indicating the amount of chakra her body possessed. Like Senju Tsunade. Word was, Tsunade had been flat as a board when roughly around Naruto's age, but after a lot of training to build up her chakra reserves, she had S that were considered the biggest in all of the elemental countries. Sag free too since having them. Not bad when considering the woman's age at this point, where they should be showing tall tale signs of wrinkling, dropping, and all that old hag stuff like Kaharu's aged body was doing now. I'm sorry about chasing you earlier, Naruto-sama, said Anko, bowing like a submissive servant would her master. I know you are Anko-chan. The meal you cooked for me proved that much. Though I need a little more convincing, and I know how you can prove yourself again, said Naruto calmly, but the devious smirk on his face told otherwise, and Anko couldn't help the shiver running up her spine. How is that, Naruto-sama? Said Anko, feeling nervous about asking him a question for reasons she didn't know. Simple. First, get one of your pink toy you keep in your stashed in your trench coat, and then come back here with it. Now, said Naruto, clapping his hands twice like a sultan would command his servant, with Anko jumping off the couch quickly to get the item he wished for. Here it is, Naruto-sama. It's clean, I promise, said Anko moments later, with the vibrator toy she kept for those days when the itch needed to be scratched, using her own means. I'm sure it is. Now put it in that nice little gleaming with juice of yours, and don't hold back the moaning, since I basically live in this apartment complex all alone because I'm the Kyuubi's jailer. Cry out like the I know you are, said Naruto, seeing Anko doing as he commanded and putting the vibrator in her while letting out moans of pleasure like she had when doing it to herself. Done, Naruto-sama, said Anko calmly, despite the fact she had the vibrator within her body placed there at the boy's command. Hand me the remote to it, said Naruto, seeing Anko stiffen slightly, but obeyed when he glared at her, and the imprinted command to obey the blonde at all times reinforced itself. Yes, Naruto-sama. Sorry for the pause, Naruto-sama, it's just that I don't let anyone else to this, but me, said Anko, as she felt incredible pleasure shoot through her when Naruto cranked up the level near high right away, and she fell to her knees in front of the blonde. I know, Anko-chan, but still you hesitated, and I have to punish you for that hesitation since you're supposed to trust me, remember? Said Naruto, giving her that commanding look her hypnotic state saw, and according to Kyuubi in his head would help make her submissive to his commands. I understand, Naruto-sama, said Anko, as she moaned further when he increased the level on the switch, and beckoned her face closer between his legs. No you don't, Anko-chan. This is not your punishment. In fact, tomorrow will be when I punish you, and it will be all day just to make sure you understand, said Naruto, as he grabbed the back of Anko's head, and moved it around his boxers. Anko blushed, as her face could feel his behind the boxers Naruto wore, and was right when she told herself he was well endowed. When he stopped, Naruto removed her face from his shorts, and then took her hand with his before placing them around where his erection. You want me to pleasure you, Naruto-sama? Said Anko, knowing better than to ask the question, but it was the only way to get the command, even if he hinted at it, and made her feel his need behind the fabric. Why thank you, Anko-chan. Please do, said Naruto, as he saw Anko use the hole in his boxers to grab his erection, and bring it out for her to see in all its glory. It's very big for your age, Naruto-sama, said Anko, as she couldn't help but feel excited about doing this, and wondered why that was the case. In the back of her mind, Anko told herself this was wrong, but any form of voicing it fell on mentally deaf ears, and she continued to do as commanded by Naruto to pleasure him. All the more cum to shoot out of you, my slave, said Naruto, as he moaned in pure pleasure at Anko's tongue licking his shaft all over, and felt her hand massaging his balls. Anko for her part didn't care what he called her, as she was doing what he commanded, and had experience from doing missions requiring the use of to get close to an enemy in order to assassinate them. Of course, such deep cover missions were very rare, and the shinobi chosen were a handful while being selected for their status of being single. Even then, the Hokage had to inquire to if the shinobi going on such a mission was going to get married, or in a relationship with the opposite. So when Anko began to give Naruto the best blowjob he could ever ask for, the special Junin had no problem using the experience from the class that taught this at the time in the academy, and on missions to get him off. Her slurping, ing, and moaning mixed with his own echoed throughout the room, with Naruto loving every second of her work. Oh yeah, Kit. She's a real keeper. Though if I remember correctly about your village laws, you're going to have to keep this a secret from the Hokage until you graduate, and your current grades won't make that happen. You'll have to try for next year, and you need a teacher who won't screw you over, and do the job right to make that even happen, said Kyuubi, knowing that Naruto was only half listening. Though considering what the boy was feeling right now, half listening was better than not listening, and the fox could always tell him this later. Yeah, definitely later. Anko-chan, I'm going to come. Drink it all down or else, said Naruto before holding her head in place and came into Anko's mouth, with the woman drinking it all down, though with some difficulty due to never receiving so much from anyone prior to now. I mean, what kid Naruto's age can release so much sperm? Oh yeah, someone like Naruto could, and just did all down Anko's mouth into her throat. Obeying him, Anko did before he released the back of her skull, and felt some leftover cum shoot out of his onto her face before she quickly licked it up in the belief that the last shot he hit her face with counted. Seeing Naruto smile in approval, her guess was correct before she quickly cleaned him off, and put his back in his boxers before removing his pants from his ankles. Shall I carry you to bed now, Naruto-sama? You have a busy day ahead of you and a growing boy needs his rests, said Anko, seeing Naruto shake his head no. Not yet. Sit next to me and relax, said Naruto, as he saw her obey, and rest her head on his shoulders while one of his hands played with one of hers. It's unfair they mistreat you, Naruto-sama. They did the same to me when I was younger and still do now on occasion, said Anko, moaning slightly under his touch while holding him, and was surprised to feel a potent amount of muscle on his body. She actually expected him to be malnourished given his current hated-filled status within Konoha. I know, Anko-chan, which is why I have a proposition for you, and would benefit us in keeping things we do here a continued secret, said Naruto while pinching her nipple and giving it a hard, quick twist that made Anko's breathing hitch suddenly. And what is that, Naruto-sama? Said Anko, as she felt the vibrator go up another level, and moaned more while feeling an orgasm approaching. Simple. I'm in need of a teacher, who will help me with my shinobi training, and push myself to the front of the class academically. You help me with this and I will use my abilities in the distant future to help get your revenge on the one who hurt you years ago, said Naruto, as he saw the curse seal on her shoulder, and heard Kyuubi tell him that foul thing would need to be purged from her body. His name is Orochimaru. He's one of the Sannin, said Anko, feeling Naruto's anger grow and being aimed at her bastard pedophile of a former teacher. Rice Country. Orochimaru sneezed, thinking someone was talking about him before Kabuto came in with the daily report. Anything else, Orochimaru-sama? Said Kabuto. Yes. Time to play the submissive slave and ruthless master again with my Kusanagi, said Orochimaru, grinning at the now pale-faced Kabuto. How else was Kabuto expected to keep his fast healing rate up? By training like shinobi should. Not on Orochimaru's watch. Back in Konoha. So that means you're going to help me train, right, Anko-chan? said Naruto, seeing Anko nod while sweating slightly at the pleasurable sensation running through her body. Why yes, Naruto-sama, said Anko, gasping when he used both hands to attack her and came hard from a double nipple twist. Good girl. Now, I'm going to get ready for bed, and while I'm doing that you can clean this up before meeting me in bed. I want to use those lovely of yours as pillows, said Naruto, kissing her cheek before getting off the chair and turning off the vibrator. Do I keep my toy in tonight too? Said Anko, seeing Naruto pause for a second. Nah, clean the toy too and put it away, said Naruto, seeing Anko nod before heading to the bathroom while the woman herself slumped back exhausted. Please Kami, don't let him be grabby when sleeping, thought Anko before setting out to do her assigned task. High above in heaven. No dice, Anko-chan. Don't worry though, since he'll be a gentle grabber, said Kami, as she watched the boy, and wished she could help him further. But no, she had to follow her own damn laws, and her sister Yami was having that time of the century, so there was no point getting in an argument that could bring about the apocalypse. Still, it didn't mean she could help him along in some other way, and decided to make those around Naruto suffer like they tried to do to him. Looking down at the leaf, Kami smiled deviously at a sleeping Hatake Kakashi, who had neglected his duties to Naruto, and with a wave of her hand turned the book he had been reading earlier into one where the men didn't sleep with hot women. They got violated by horny gay men. Snickering at her handiwork in changing all of the man's books into such nasty things, Kami looked at one Hyuga Hinata, and seeing the naughty dreams the girl was having about the young blonde Uzumaki. Kami was surprised at first, but then again the girl had matured rather quickly for her age, which was the nature of the Hyuga clan she was in, and raised to be more mature in order to get stronger. Tweaking the dream slightly, Kami saw Hinata's face turning a shade darker than usual, and smiled knowing the girl was going to need new sheets tomorrow. Perhaps it was cruel, but if it kept the girl on the course to being with Naruto no matter what, then all the more naughty dreams to Hinata, and nothing less until the time was right for the two to get together. After that, Kami focused on a few more people in Konoha, smiling mischievously at the village, and decided to exercise her one cosmic right to do things in a pranking fashion. It had been a while since she had, and Kami wasn't about to stop until she got it all out of her system. And if Yami or the Shinigami complained, well then she'd just have to them up too, like she did the last 1,000 years ago. Of course, the last time that happened she accidentally brought around instability and the creation of the 10-tailed beast, so it would have to be a quick subtle kicking. The Sandame sighed while sitting at his desk, Anko sitting across from him, and asking him for a request he didn't want to grant. It was bad enough having to deal with the huge mountain of paperwork on his desk, currently laughing, mocking, and saying he would never finish. Never. Where was that medication again? No. Not there. Damn it. Here. No. Maybe over here. This is so infuriating. Oh wait, here it is. Of course the meds only kept the voices of the evil paperwork at bay for so long, but he could hold it off until this meeting with Anko was over, and catch a breather. It was bad enough with Kakashi screaming like a little girl earlier this morning and then coming into the room demanding a full-scale investigation into who had replaced all of his treasured Ika paradise with horrible evil violating yaoi porn Orochimaru would love to have. The very picturing of what was contained in such evil books existing sent chills up his spine, but all the Sandame could do was tell Kakashi to burn the books, and buy new ones suited to his preferences. But that was then. This was now, and Anko's trench coat was barely holding back the sight of her S. No, damn it. Focus. Focus on the meeting and not her chest. You want me to grant you adoption and training privileges to Naruto? Did I hear you correctly? Said the Sandame, seeing Anko nod while fidgeting her hips every couple of seconds, and it was becoming a bit distracting. Why couldn't he be a young stud again? No, Hiruzen. Focus. Focus. Your wife's ghost is watching you. Or did he need to up the medication again? Or was it a side effect of the medication? Screw it. He'll talk to his doctor later. Yeah, the Gaki bumped into me yesterday when I had Dango in my arms and lost it after we collided. Chased the kid all over for nearly 10 minutes before catching him. Of course, when I did, he explained it was an accident, and looking back on it, I agreed, so I didn't kick the crap out of him. But I was impressed by his evading abilities, plus stamina to last so long, and asked him about his status at the academy. It was after we talked about that I felt I should come see you today, said Anko, seeing the Sandame nod while moving her hips slightly, which in foreign territory would distract men during negotiations, be the warm putty female hands like the old man did there for a second. Dirty old perverted man. So he impressed you, but adopting, and training him. The boy may graduate this year or next depending how things go now. It seems kind of sudden for you to adopt a child that will soon be a shinobi and adult in the eyes of the village, said the Sandame, trying to not look at her hips again when they moved left to sweet right. Damn it, Hiruzen, focus. That's where you're wrong, Hokage-sama. The boy's education is being stunted by the academy teachers. Several times the boy is kicked out of the class for no reason at all, being told if he tells you they'll make things worse, and they apparently give him difficult tests to figure out from what I've been told by the Gaki. Naruto hasn't gone to you about this because he knows without proof, it's their word against his, and considering the Gaki's status. I don't think the kid has a hope in hell. If I were to spy on the situation in the classroom to verify one case regarding his story and report back to you, then it would give me standing to train him properly, said Anko, seeing the Sandame sigh again and look troubled. Okay. Investigate the boy's accusations, and only after I hear from you will I decide on letting you train the boy, said the Sandame, seeing the woman smile. And what about adopting him? Said Anko, seeing the Sandame slump in his chair. Anko, it's not so simple. I would love to have someone adopt Naruto, but I can't do it, and we both know why. The councils will never allow it. If I can give you the means to train him, I'll let you move him in with you, and make it an unofficial adoption, said the Sandame, seeing Anko sigh now while shifting her hips more, making the old man tense at the area he was now staring at. Fine. It's better than nothing, I suppose. But we both know the Sandame Hokage in his prime would have those two councils wrapped around his finger and not the other way around, said Anko, getting up from her chair and leaving the room with the Hokage letting out a tired sigh of relief. Thank Kami she left. Good thing I held firm in front of my wife's ghost. Now to deal with you evil paperwork. I've survived countless battles in the shinobi wars, and I will survive you too, said the Sandame before letting out an evil genius laugh while his Anbu guards guarding the door's sweat dropped while wondering if the old man had finally lost it. Chances are, given his age, he most likely was. Konoha Shinobi Academy. And you're kicking me out, why exactly? Said Naruto, seeing the prick of a teach push him out. Because I said so. I'm the teacher. Teachers make the rules. And one of my rules is no demons allowed in my classroom, said the academy teacher before shutting the door. Asshole, said Naruto, but in truth he didn't care, since what the guy was teaching was something the blonde knew, and didn't need this jerk trying to mess him up. Quite the mouth on you, Gaki, said Anko, having seen that little talk between the two. You're one to talk, Anko-chan, said Naruto, seeing the woman blush for a second and once more fidget with the certain item he had put between her legs earlier that morning to be her punishment in having it on with every step, spiking pleasure every so often. Yeah, well, you have that effect on people, and it's not necessarily a good thing at time, said Anko, as she played off what he meant to be something else, and not what it was. So did your business with the Hokage get settled? Said Naruto, not giving anything away of their secret relationship. Approved one after seeing proof, but I got shot down with the other, and we both know why, said Anko, seeing Naruto frown at that, and she couldn't blame the kid. Well, I got some free time until the next class. Want to hang out? Said Naruto, pointing with his thumb to the class he just got kicked out of. Sure, but I think it's only fair the rest of that class gets out early too. Give me a few minutes, said Anko, walking into the classroom, and after shutting the door there were screams from those inside along with that of someone getting the crap kicked out of them. When the door opened next, Anko came out cheery with a smile on her face before she announced that class was dismissed, as the kids ran out mixed with terror, and happiness over what just happened going through their heads. They had no idea someone's arms and legs could be bent such a way. Nice. So, should we just leave him there or call for medical assistance? Said Naruto, seeing Anko's handiwork before she shut the door. Leave him. Besides, I'm pretty sure the kids from the class will let someone know since they can't keep their mouths shut, said Anko, smirking at Naruto with the two walking off to get something to eat. Sure enough, the kids from the class told a teacher what happened, who then told some medic nins, and then the medic nins then took the disabled teacher to the hospital. Like the students in the class, who witnessed the events, the medic nins, and the doctors at the hospital had no idea someone's limbs could be twisted in such a fashion. Still, it gave Anko and Naruto a chance to have a meeting with the Hokage about what led up to the events of the instructor's early retirement. So Naruto's accusations have foundation to them, said the Sandaime in a matter-of-fact tone. I'd say they do. And if there is one instructor already screwing the kids' education over, then there is a good chance there are more, and they're doing it under your nose since you are kind of stuck doing paperwork, said Anko, seeing the Sandaime eye the dreaded stack of papers and then the brief glare at the pile like it was talking to him. You will never defeat us. We'll get bigger and bigger. Your pitiful predecessors and late successor could not best us, and neither will you. You will never win, said the imaginary voice of the paperwork to the Sandaime. Ignore its voice. It wants you to speak out loud against it so people will think you're crazy. You're not. You are sane, you are wise, and you don't need adult diapers since you have complete control over such things. Thought the Sandaime to himself. So what are you going to do about this, old man? Said Naruto, bringing the Sandaime's line of thought away from the brink of temporary insanity. Well, given the situation, Naruto, I think Anko's right about your education being stunted by the academy instructors, and since they are doing it in a way that covers up their vile actions, it makes any proof of such sabotage difficult to prove. However, I think we can come to an alternative arrangement that will benefit us all, and allow you to graduate next year since the damage done is too extensive right now, said the Sandaime, seeing Anko's, "You're damn right," look, which made him feel all the more guiltier, and knew the kid was in need of something in terms of education. What kind of arrangement? Said Naruto, playing the suspicious yet eager, childlike look on his face. Anko here will train you in the shinobi arts and help you learn what you need in order to graduate next year, said the Sandaime, seeing Naruto's surprise before the boy jumped around with joy. That's awesome. Wait, won't people be a little upset? Said Naruto, now playing the part of the concerned child for those around him. Bit. Normally they would be if they knew, but this will be done in secret, and you will move in with Anko at her place. It's actually in the central tower located within the Forest of Death, which is used on occasion for the Chunin exams when hosted here, but other than that, Anko lives there alone, and gives you plenty of privacy needed to train with her, said the Sandaime, while hoping Anko didn't go too crazy with her training of the boy and screw up his sanity. Then I accept, said Naruto, shaking Anko's hand with the woman smirking to put on a show for the Sandaime that she was going to make the boy's training ruthless. While inside she was mentally whimpering at everything that would be really going on in the privacy of her, or rather their home. Very well. I just hope you can handle Anko's training regimen, Naruto. She's a lot like you in terms of being full of energy and making people lose their sanity, said the third Hokage, seeing Naruto grin happily while dreading for the boy's mental state. You know me, old man. I live dangerously, said Naruto, seeing the Hokage chuckle a bit before dismissing them both. You have no idea, Naruto. You have no idea. Now, to take care of you once and for all, said the Sandaime before going back to his paperwork and its mocking of him in never defeating it. Forest of Death, the Central Tower. Here it is. My home away from Konoha. Free of the bigots, idiots, and perverts that piss me off to no end. Said Anko, showing Naruto around with her hands in the air and a smile on her face. Not bad. It's a palace here compared to my apartment. And no one else comes here. Ever. Said Naruto, taking something out of his pocket while staring at Anko in front of him. Nope. Everyone knows this is my home. Well, technically now it's ours. Yep. It's just you and me, said Anko, as she felt the vibrator in her increase, and the sudden jolt of pleasure sent her to the ground on her knees. Good. Now carry me upstairs to the bedroom where you sleep, said Naruto, as he saw Anko trying to hold back the pleasurable sensation running through her and pick the boy up. Why yes and Naruto Sam AAA, said Anko, as she felt the level on the vibrator go up again thanks to Naruto, and the boy had begun groping her just for the fun of it. Slow steps now Anko-chan. Wouldn't want you to trip and drop me, said Naruto with a cheeky grin on his face, and it made Anko fight the urge to just drop him down the flight of steps. She would have too had it not been for the hypnotic programming Naruto had embedded into her mind. Why yes Naruto sama said Anko, as she took slowly, delicate, and tortuous steps up to the high level of the tower where her bedroom was located. If the blonde Gaki ever needed references to get into the INT department when he became a shinobi, Anko was sure Naruto got one hell of a reference on his resume, and lots of positive remarks. Yep, positive remarks with lipstick kisses if she had to, and if she was head of the INT department when applying. Hell, she'd give him the position, and let the blonde go nuts with the place. You are one cruel perverted kid, you know that right? Said Kyuubi, as he realized this bloodline he'd given Naruto was having a profound, and perverse effect on the boy. I had a good teacher Fox. A good perverted teacher, thought Naruto while the fox started to cry. I'm so proud of you. I think I feel a tears coming to my eyes, said the Kyuubi before using one of his tails to make sure and saw that he was. By the time Anko had gotten to the high levels, she was about ready climax right then, and there at the pleasure Naruto had been hitting her with. It was almost unbearable, as she needed to hurry before she came, and collapsed with him in her arms. Acting quickly, Anko kicked down the door to her bedroom, and put Naruto the queen-size bed before he twisted her nipple hard, causing the powerful orgasm that made her once again fall to her knees. Very impressive Anko-chan. I think this whole training together in secret will indeed be mutually beneficial, said Naruto grinning perversely at Anko breathing heavily with her face on the edge of the bed. Yes master, said Anko, as she felt Naruto gently picking up her head, and kissing her forehead before petting it. Who is my favorite girl? Said Naruto seeing Anko's eyes glaze for a second. I am master, said Anko, as she felt her mind become foggy, and suppressed even while the rational side screaming at her to pound this perverted fox child into the next millennia as a eunuch. Smart girl. I knew I chose wisely for using my bloodline on you, the first of several. Said Naruto, as he saw Anko look at him now curiously, and the surprise on her face told she didn't expect others to be turned like she was. Of course. I need to, or else people will catch on. Don't worry. I won't turn you away once I have others on my side. I just need others we know, we can trust, and work with them to make Konoha great. I still want to be Hokage, but I can't do that alone, and while your contribution to my shinobi training will be a remarkable step forward, I will need help from other people. Other women. Think of them as your future sisters to my harem, said Naruto seeing Anko looking hesitant at the idea and knew it was because of her own programming. I don't know Naruto-sama, said Anko before she saw Naruto's eyes change. Submission Anko-chan, can you hear me? Said Naruto sternly with Anko's eyes glazing over again like they did the first time. Yes Naruto-sama, said Anko simply. Good. I need to update your programming, so listen well. I need your help in recruiting other girls to my harem. I am the last of my clan, which means I fall under the CRA, but it's a secret so we can't come right out and say it because that would bring out fangirls. Only strong girls deserve to be with me like you, which is why we need to be on the lookout for such people, and let me turn them to our side. Understand? Said Naruto seeing Anko nodding like it was the simplest thing in the world. Yes Naruto-sama, said Anko simply. Good. Now when I turn off my bloodline, you will feel refreshed, happy, and we will plan out my shinobi training schedule for tomorrow to continue into my graduation, said Naruto, seeing Anko just nod before he turned off his bloodline and Anko was free of the hypnotic trance. I feel suddenly refreshed, said Anko before looking up at Naruto, who smiled down at her, and she hugged him while saying thank you even though she didn't know why she was saying it. You are welcome, Anko-chan. Now clean yourself up. Come sit here on the bed, and we will plan out my training regimen, said Naruto, patting her cheek, and she nodded before kissing him on the cheek moments prior to getting refreshed up with a shower. The two spent the rest of the day planning out his training schedule, which would consist of Naruto learning physical training involving push-ups, sit-ups, and running with heavy weights. Then there was chakra control, followed by taijutsu training, kunai throwing, and survival training revolving around at least a week of staying the forest of death. That bit of his training would involve Naruto with just the clothes on his back plus one kunai and his instincts. It was going to be one cruel regiment of training, but in the end Naruto knew it was worth it, and there were fringe benefits with Anko that made it all the more appealing. Of course, Kyuubi had suggested in restraining himself from going all the way with Anko, at least until he graduated, and then have Anko give him one hell of the graduation present. Of course, it wasn't easy showing such restraint, as he had this scantily clad, mostly special Junin around him, and it was hard to resist the urge to ploy her like his instincts demanded at times. Something Naruto could possibly blame Kyuubi for this due to their connection to each other, and of course the oral wasn't helping either. It wasn't like Naruto didn't give as well as receive, which he did since the need to please Anko, and the other women he would turn with his submission was a must. Naruto was turning into a demonically influenced pervert, but he was going to be a loving demonically influenced pervert, and that was all there was to it. You did good today, Gaki. Let's go into Konoha to celebrate, said Anko, as they headed into the leaf, and stopped at Naruto's favorite ramen stand. Ramen time. I've missed it so much, said Naruto, hugging the corner of the building while crying tears of joy. Well, you earned it after all you've done these last few weeks, so I felt you should splurge yourself on something you like, said Anko, as she sat down with Naruto, and saw the ramen girl Ayame come out to take their orders of 2 bowls of miso ramen with a side of dango. Hey Ayame-chan. How's your old man? I don't see him back there. He didn't break his hip or something, right? Said Naruto, seeing Ayame giggle since it was just the way he was when talking about people. Father's taking a few days vacation and left me in charge. It's just you, me, and your girlfriend making 3, said Ayame, making Naruto glaring with a red face with Anko smirking. Well, I don't know about girlfriend. Friends with benefits maybe, said Anko, teasing to keep up the public eye while Ayame turned cherry red in the face. Hey Ayame, do you need help in the back? I could help you make Anko's meal since you're short-handed today, said Naruto, getting in, "Ah, that's so sweet," from Ayame while motioning for him to join her on the other side. She missed Naruto looking back at Anko with the wink and didn't hear the perverted giggle coming out of the special Junin's mouth when they went into the back for the supplies. Okay Naruto-kun. Grab one of these and one of these while get some of the things on the higher shelf, said Ayame, as she pointed to the things around his height, and she went to get things that were around her own. Ow. Ayame-chan, said Naruto, making the ramen girl rush to his aid in the belief he had hurt himself. What is it, Naruto-kun? Said Ayame, as she saw him on the ground, holding his knee, and whimpering in pain. I think I hurt my knee, said Naruto so Ayame could come closer and kneeling down. Let me see, said Ayame, as she got closer, and saw no injury to Naruto's knee before looking at him with a curious frown. By the time she saw his eyes change, it was too late, and Ayame had fallen in Naruto's trap. Submission said Naruto, capturing Ayame in his dojutsu. What's happening? Why do I feel like a part of my mind getting sleepy? Thought Ayame, as she felt her mind get hazy, and saw Naruto standing up, so he was now face to face. Ayame-chan, can you hear me? said Naruto, seeing Ayame nod her head like Anko would when under his power. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Ayame dumbly with glazed over eyes. Good. Now listen very carefully. When I deactivate my optical bloodline, everything I say while it's active will stay within your mind unless I decide to change it, and you will obey whatever you are told. Understand? Said Naruto, seeing Ayame nod again. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Ayame again. From now on, you are going to be considered one of my special girls in my life, and do things with me in private that no one can know about. As for being one of the special girls in my life means you have to listen to everything I tell you in private, which will involve dirty perverted things, and you won't protest. In fact, you will like everything we do, and find it to be pleasurable even if it involves another woman. Do you understand, Ayame-chan? Said Naruto, seeing the glazed eyes absorbing all this information. Yes, Naruto-kun. I'm one of your special girls, said Ayame dumbly with a hint of drool falling down the side of her face he quickly wiped away with a handkerchief. That's right. And as a rule regarding my special girls like you, they have to do special things, perverted thing for me when I ask, and without complaint. Do you understand? Said Naruto, knowing Ayame would, and saw her nod. Good. When I deactivate my bloodline, you will act as if nothing happened, we'll get the ingredients for the ramen, and will let me eat you out while in front of your secret harem sister Anko-chan, said Naruto, knowing that Ayame knew Anko was one of the special girls in his harem. Yes, Naruto-kun. I understand, said Ayame before Naruto deactivated his bloodline and returned to normal. Are you all right, Ayame-chan? Said Naruto to play the part of the innocent child, for now. Oh my, yes. I must have spaced out. Your friend Anko must be waiting impatiently for us, said Ayame with a bit of worry, knowing Anko had a reputation when it came to losing her patience. She'll understand. You are making her dango after all, said Naruto, as he got the much needed ingredients, and went back out with Ayame. You finally came back. I was beginning to think the Gaki was being secretly molested by you, Ayame-chan, said Anko, seeing Naruto wink behind Ayame while the ramen girl blushed heavily. No, it just took longer for me to find the ingredients for your ramen and dango, said Ayame, as she went to work in making the ramen and dango with Naruto practically inhaling the ramen within seconds. That was a good lunch. Now for something extra, thought Naruto, as he snuck behind the counter, and Ayame before lifting up her skirt before pulling down her panties. Ayame for her part was blushing red, as she wanted to instinctively yell out in surprise, slap Naruto in the face, call him a pervert, and other things that would make a lot of noise for people to hear. However, the words Naruto hypnotically implanted into the woman about this kept that from happening, and all Ayame could do was enjoy the sensation of the blonde's tongue working its magic on her. What's the matter, Ayame-chan? You look bothered. Has today been exhausting? Said Anko, seeing the look on Ayame's face, as their shared master was going to town on her like he had on the special Junin plenty of times already. Anko could say this about the perverted fox and that it taught Naruto well on how to use his tongue on a woman. OOUK no me Anko-chan. Every day is an exhausting day and I've been Betty EER. Said Ayame, as she felt Naruto hit his mark, and had the ramen girl coming into his mouth before patting her rear gently after he finished. Good side dish. Hope you don't mind that I take this as a souvenir, Ayame-chan, said Naruto, as he had acquired in taking her panties, and pulled her skirt back down before causally walking back around the counter to where Anko was waiting after she paid for their meal. It's on the house, said Ayame, having never experienced that in her life and felt the need to be generous in her own way. Bagged another one, right Kit? My lessons to you about the ways of oral pleasure are paying off, said Kyubi, who was clearly pleased with the boy's progress in being a good lover, and would get even better with enough time. You dirty perverted boy, said Anko, as she saw him tuck the panties away before anyone could spot him doing it, and saw the blonde smirking. Oh, don't be like that, Anko-chan. You're just jealous because I don't do it to you. It's not my fault you don't wear panties around me, said Naruto in a whispered voice, but still devilish all the same, and it made Anko blush a bit. Actually, it is your fault, Baka. You told me not to wear them when in private, said Anko, barely able to keep her whisper on that whispery level. Oh, I'm a Baka now. For that, I'm spanking you 100 times when we get back, and you're going to apologize after each hit on your Y, said Naruto, making the woman let out a tiny whimper, mentally cursed herself for that. Akatsuki HQ. Everything all right, said Pain, seeing Madara walk into the dark scary room with the other members of the Akatsuki that they currently had waiting for him. I have bad news. I went to see a doctor not that long ago and it turns out that I have incurable rectal cancer, said Madara, with all the members looking at him with wide eyes filled with surprise. So you have cancer, said Pain calmly. Yes, said Madara, sadly embracing that news himself. And it's in your, said Kisame simply. Yes. In my, said Madara again with depression. And there is nothing you can do about it. Your Sharingan eyes do not stop it from one day killing you despite them granting immortality, said Konan, seeing Madara shake his head no. There was silence now filling the room, each member of the Akatsuki looking at each other, and then at Madara with his words filling their heads. Uchiha Madara had cancer in Hi Sand. It was incurable no matter what he did. That being said, the group around Madara did the only thing they felt like doing, and that was to simply laugh. That's right. They laughed their off, rolling around laughing at Madara's misfortune, and thus pissing the oldest Uchiha in existence off. You, yelled Madara before stomping away like an angry child. I can't believe that. Madara has rectal cancer, said Pain, laughing on the floor with the others. Yeah, that really is, but it's really funny all the same, and I can't help wonder if it's genetic, said Kisame, with Itachi freezing in the middle of his laughter at the sheer horror of the situation that could be the case and wished to get tested. Hopefully, with Itachi's luck, it will have skipped his generation, but if it did, then there was only one other Uchiha that could be hit by this. Back in Konoha, Sasuke of a suddenly tightened to a level of tightness that even he didn't think was possible, and wondered if this was a bad sign of sorts regarding his was it fangirls? Or was it something else? A dark premonition about Itachi perhaps? Sasuke didn't know, but it was bad for him, and if the feeling around it was any indication. Hearing the fangirl squeals of his name, Sasuke sighed at the long-time ritual of dodging fangirls, and keeping himself being molested one day at a time. All the while, the Uchiha wondered why there weren't any boys around his age willing to experiment, and swing his way. Maybe that Neji kid a year ahead of him. He's always being broody and whatnot. Perhaps they could experiment together and could help finally end the rivalry between the two clans. With Naruto. If one were to suddenly barge in on bedroom Naruto was in at the central tower located within the Forest of Death, they would see him on the bed, then Anko on his lap, hair in the air, and the blonde spanking it with his hand. Repeatedly. Anko crying out with each slap, apologizing for calling him a baka, and basically cementing his claim to being her master to the end of time. Again, a strange sight to see if you were to barge in on them if you didn't know about their relationship in being together. 98, 99, and finally, 100. With one extra for good measure, said Naruto, giving Anko her last spank to Harem, was aware of something about halfway through the spanking of the woman's rear. She had gotten wet. Anko got off on being spanked and her juices were leaking onto his boxers right at the moment. Thank you for punishing me, master. I deserved it, said Anko, with her face currently matching the shade of red her was now from embarrassment. Good to hear, Anko-chan, but your juice is leaking over my boxers, and it needs to be cleaned. Lick it clean after I move to lie back against the pillows, said Naruto, moving to sit in the middle of the large bed with the stain Anko had placed there from his actions moments ago being seeable to the special Junin's eyes. Yes, master, said Anko, as she crawled in between his legs, and began licking the spot where her cum had been, and looked up at Naruto, seeing the happy smile on his face. Of course, she also saw the slowly growing budge in his boxers, so seeing his smile only seemed to reinforce what Anko already knew. After you clean my boxers, I want a blowjob, and all the cum swallowed, said Naruto, feeling the wet traces of her tongue teasing his behind the boxers and making it stir like it had while eating Ayame out. It took a while to make it go down given what he did, but Naruto had long since learned to keep his soldier from causing insubordination, and Kyuubi had basically healed any kind of discomfort his body would go through from not getting release. According to the fox, such healing was a countermeasure to any woman who captured him and tried to break him using the blue balling method of UAL torture. I still can't believe I'm doing this to him. Cammy only knows what will happen when he's legally an adult, thought Anko, as she finished her first task, and then pulled down the blonde's boxers down to his ankles to reveal his hardness, standing proud before her very eyes before proceeding with the second task of the evening. Oh yeah, I love how you do this, Anko-chan. You'll have to teach Ayame this when we eventually have her over for delivering ramen and giving a nice tip, said Naruto, as he closed his eyes, and enjoyed Anko's slurping noises while pleasing him. Yes, Naruto-sama, said Anko before ing on his balls and licking up his shaft. Also, I was thinking about the one major problem I've been having at the academy, and I think I have an idea. Well, Kyuubi has an idea, but I need to hear your opinion on it, and if you can help me, Anko-chan, said Naruto, since his teacher seemed to stick it to him when involving this particular problem. And what problem is that, Naruto-sama? Said Anko while moving her hands up his slick-in appendage so the pleasure wouldn't stop, though she did lick the head on occasion. I need to learn a better version of the C clone jutsu, because my C chakra control W won't be enough, even if I train to C control it. Oh damn, Anko, you are going to make cum by doing that, said Naruto before grabbing her head and forced her more of it into the woman's mouth. Walk KFJKDFJFDKSK, said Anko, but found herself being controlled by Naruto, and heard him groan before coming into her mouth that she swallowed like she had in the past with him. What was that, Anko-chan? Said Naruto, grinning a fox-like grin while Anko had just finished swallowing his cum and glared slightly. I said, there are a few versions of the clone jutsu you could learn, but given the amount of chakra and that it will increase several times over by next year, I think the shadow clone jutsu would be perfect, said Anko, as she knew with the kid's reserves, the jutsu would barely drain him, and accelerate his training several times over, and make the blonde a force to be reckoned with. That and the he had with any girl he was with would be unimaginable. Do you know it? Said Naruto, seeing Anko shake her head no. No, I don't. Few Junin do, since it's in the forbidden scroll of sealing, and given your current position in the leaf, the only one capable of teaching you it is the Hokage, said Anko, knowing only the Hokage at this point was Naruto's only hope of learning that high-level clone jutsu. If that's the case, then we will just have to speak to the Hokage tomorrow, and have him teach it to both of us, since it will be good for training, said Naruto thoughtfully on the matter while feeling Anko's tongue licking his clean. By this time next year, you'll get Rookie of the Year, and show everyone what you can do, said Anko, knowing with all he could learn by next year's term at the academy, then combined with shadow clones picking up more slack, and his ability to absorb things like a sponge would make the boy a formidable shinobi to be scared of. Damn right. And when I graduate, I'll become an adult, and that means we're going to do a little celebrating with Ayame-chan when that happens, said Naruto before letting out a perverted giggle, with Anko knowing exactly what he meant. Sure enough, the idea of using the shadow clone jutsu for Naruto, and Anko too, had paid off tremendously for training. The Sandaime had been reluctant at first, considering it was a forbidden jutsu, which if discovered was taught to Naruto could cause some kind of backlash for him, and decided the cover story was Anko was taught the jutsu, with the blonde seeing the special Junin do it during her own private training. When the final year at the academy started, Naruto used shadow clones to train while he was actually in class, and it paid off big time with those baka teachers that still tried to screw him over. They didn't kick him out of the classes so much after what happened to the last instructor, but they did try to have him take the tests while making sure he had little to no knowledge from them on how to answer questions properly, and were shocked to see his answers were dead on. They tried to alter the papers, but the boy's handwriting was unique in its own way, and any kind of altering would be noticed if brought to the Hokage. While pretending to learn at the academy, Naruto decided to secretly watch his fellow classmates, knowing from Anko that one day he would be on a team with two of them, and would have to trust they would watch his back. Though that was unlikely given how most of them were Uchiha fangirls, who would never see beyond the academy in terms of being a shinobi, and there was also the possibility the minds of the student who did pass were poisoned by their parents in thinking he was a demon they should kill when the opportunity presented itself. Judging from who was in the class he was in, the various children, who would be heirs to their respectful clans, would pass, and they were a bit weird in Naruto's mind. Not far from the blonde was Nara Shikamaru, was lazy, who wasn't doing much except sleeping, which wasn't surprising since all Nara males were lazy, and were all at a very young age, whipped by the female half of the clan. All of whom were not Naras by blood, but rather married into the clan because they were the kind of women who liked weak-willed men, and liked to hit them with frying pans, while the Nara men seemed to like being hit. Maybe it was a fetish kind of thing. Naruto didn't know, and neither did the Kyuubi for that matter, since he had been sealed away for over a century. Though neither really cared at this point and moved on to the next kid in the class he'd have to possibly partner with. Akamichi Choji was eating chips under the table in secret due to his clan being big bone due to their ability to expand themselves and required they have a lot of mass to make it happen. Naruto had nothing against Choji at all, so if his parents didn't hate him for having Kyuubi and passing that hate down to him, then the two would get along just fine. Next was Haruno Sakura, who Kyuubi had referred to as Banshee screaming bitch with no rack to grope, and told Naruto to do his best in class so there was no chance in all of hell in being paired with her. Kyuubi wasn't even sure Sakura was a girl at all, as she hit too much like a guy when fighting other Uchiha fangirls, and wondered if she was in fact a he, just without either of the testicles somehow not descending. Next to Sakura was her former best friend turned rival for Uchiha Sasuke was Yamanaka Ino, who for one did look like a girl, but was a bit skinny for Naruto's taste. If he did turn her in the future, made sure she ate a lot more than she was now. With the right amount of eating, mixed with training in the shinobi arts, Naruto knew Ino would have a great body, and that thought made perverse thoughts dance in his head. A few rows back, Aburame Shino was silent except for the occasional buzzing from his insects his clan was known to have control over, and was currently doing the whole living statue routine like usual. Never moving unless he had to, never speaking unless he had to speak to someone, and doing just about everything while doing nothing that caused people to be freaked the hell out. He was Naruto's kind of friend. Next to Shino was one Inuzuka Kiba, who was talking to his dog Akamaru in secret, and could overhear some perverse talk from the boy. It was clear whoever the boy's father was had quite the perverted streak, but from what rumors Naruto had secretly heard about the man, the Inuzuka matriarch who was Kiba's mother had scared the man away, and he had not been heard from since his departure. Naruto knew if Kiba's mother overheard her son speaking the way was now, she would no doubt skin him alive, and feed his remains to her more vicious dogs. A row down from Kiba was one Hyuga Hinata, who in Naruto's mind was one special girl, who was timid when it came to being around others, but Kyuubi had told the blonde that she had looked his way one more than one occasion, and blushed seconds later. For Naruto, of course, he had known why, as it was clear the Hyuga girl had a crush on him, and given her clan eyes she must have seen something she liked. If Naruto had her eyes, he'd do such things, and see what lay beyond that jacket of her that covered Hinata's upper body. Something Kyuubi bet all 9 of his tails held a well-developed rack, which the fox constantly told him he should try getting in on the ground floor of, and enjoy when possible. Speaking of development, It became clear to Kyuubi that Naruto's physical height being the shortest of the class by a mere couple of inches was just not tolerable, and began to do some more tweaking to jumpstart Naruto's growth spurting. By the halfway point of his final year at the academy, Naruto was now barely shorter than Shino, who was currently the tallest kid in the class, and increase in height it only helped further in Blonde's training exercises. Not only that, but the fox had burned away the rest of his baby fat with the brief height increase to give Naruto a more mature look, which did make him more noticeable to the females around his age, and if it weren't for the fact their parents told them to stay away from him, there would be fangirls pursuing to molest his body too. Ironic that such negativity could have some form of usefulness. Man, this crap is getting old. It's the same old story, fox. Teacher talks, teacher makes us bored, the Uchiha broods, the fangirls squeal, and I die a little inside from being here to witness it, thought Naruto to the Kyuubi, as the two were in the battle of chess, and like usual the fox was winning. Though after 50,000 games between them, the Kyuubi wasn't dominating like before, and Naruto was getting pretty good despite losing. The fox actually praised him regardless of losing, saying, "You learn more from defeat than victory," and it only spurred Naruto on to finally beat the kitsune at this game. Yeah, I know. Don't worry though, Kit. We're halfway through the year. Besides, you know what awaits us back home, and that little thing you got Anko-chan to wear, said Kyuubi, giggling perversely while Naruto did too within his own head while keeping it from being outside. Oh yes. Naruto did remember. Tonight, Anko was going to be the horny school girl, and Naruto was going to be the naughty teacher that got to molest her in exchange for giving better grades. That was another thing that changed with Naruto's relationship with Anko, as he had her role-playing with him on a few occasions, and played several parts. The naughty maid caught stealing jewelry from her master, who has to be punished, and then had to make it up to him with the use of her body. Then there was the female thief caught by the police, was frisked, molested, and then thrown in a cell, alone with the officer before being punished for her crimes. Naruto's favorite was playing the role of Hokage, as he sat behind the secondary desk in the central tower, and Anko played the ever-loyal Anbu assigned to watch him before she relieved him of all the stress of a hard day's work in doing paperwork. That made Naruto grin outwardly. What was another surprising thing, was he sensed Anko had become more comfortable with their UAL relationship, no doubt from him looking older and more mature. Still, Anko had gotten into the routine of sorts regarding his UAL molestations, and groping of her body when he wanted it. Same with Ayame too. Those two got along quite well, as they were able to share him better thanks to the use of shadow clones, and even made a game about who could make their chosen girl come faster. Of course the real Naruto won all the time, which was secretly due to the memories of the shadow clones he beat, and their memories allowed him to please either girl he chose faster. What made it even more interesting was neither girl knew just who was the real Naruto and who was the shadow clone until it was over. Naruto. Pay attention, said Iruka, throwing an eraser at Naruto, who easily got it, and threw it back. Then don't make your lectures so boring, Iruka-sensei. Kami, you could turn your way of teaching into a jutsu, and take out enemy shinobi without even trying, said Naruto, as he got the class to laugh, and made Iruka's face turn red with steam coming out of his ears at the jab at the way he taught the class. Knock it off. Teaching like this has been handed down from teacher to teacher. You will respect it. Understand? Yelled Iruka using the evil big head jutsu on the class. Can you teach me that jutsu? I want to use it to scare the crap out of some people, said Naruto casually while making Iruka's face plant since no kid at the academy had ever asked to learn that jutsu. One more word, Naruto, and I'll send you to detention, thought Iruka before getting off the ground and began his lecture again while giving Naruto a warning look prior to his restarting of it. By the time the academy let out, Naruto was ready to go demon on the place if he didn't get out soon, and raise untold hell around him. Of course, it changed when Anko came to greet him, and he smiled at the special Junin knowing it was no longer needed to hide their official relationship in terms of teaching. The teachers had made inquiries with the two councils, who then brought it to the Hokage at a meeting, who after much dodging the third had no choice, but to reveal that Anko had taken the boy on as a student, and give Naruto a chance to excel at the academy. Of course, the councils bitched, moaned, and complained about such news reaching their ears. It was bad enough in their eyes the boy was getting training from a special Junin, but it was even worse that Anko was the one teaching him, and they demanded such teaching stop. Fortunately, one of the laws the council set up, merely humor the Hokage in the belief the boy had a fighting chance, to keep Naruto from getting help had actually worked in his favor, as the laws stated if a shinobi of Chunin, or higher wanted to teach a student at the academy then they could on their time. The Sandaime used that particular to allow the continued teaching relationship between Anko and Naruto while internally pleased with the boy's progress under Anko's guidance. Of course, the Sandaime was also pleased Naruto's sanity was still intact, and that Anko's had toned itself down quite a bit. Granted, Anko was still crazy, a bit psychotic, and liked to lick blood off people's faces. But now Anko would smile more in a way that wasn't fake, sheepish, or psychotic when it wasn't warranted. Who would have thought? So Gaki, how did it go today? Kick any? Said Anko smiling her crazy smile while Naruto just laughed. Literally. No. Figuratively. Hell yes. I've practically got the title of Rookie in the Year in the bag, said Naruto pumping fists with Anko, and the two walked along Konoha to have one of their more open conversations. Great. Because if you didn't, then I would have to kick you for wasting my time in training you, said Anko laughing slightly though she seemed worried about something from what Naruto saw. Something wrong, said Naruto seeing Anko shrug. Not really. It's just my friend Yuhi Kurenai is being well, bitchy lately, said Anko, as she knew Kurenai had been chosen in advance to have a genin team from this year's own graduating batch, and the genjutsu mistress was being really twitchy. I see. Is she being visited by her aunt? Said Naruto knowing what it meant, and Anko shook her head. No, nothing like that, it's just, Kurenai has been somewhat of a strong feminist woman for a while now, hating men for being perverts, and hating boys because they will one day become men that are perverts. She actually wanted an all-female team, but given most of them are fangirls, it was most likely Kurenai will prefer taking on the standard 2 boys, and 1 girl genin team from those graduating this year, said Anko seeing Naruto nod his head in understanding. Could be tricky for me to graduate officially if I have her as my sensei, said Naruto knowing such a woman as his sensei would try to make his life miserable all because she hated people with a. True. Which is why I feel in the event that does happen you might have to convince her to see things in a different light, said Anko, as she didn't mind being Naruto's toy, but there was some hesitance in having her friend join the currently secret, and exclusive, club she was in with Ayame. I'll only do that unless it's absolutely necessary, Anko-chan. I'm not heartless. I'm secretly a pervert learning from a perverted demonic fox, but most definitely not heartless, and I do show restraint when needed, said Naruto grinning at Anko, who was appreciative of this, and knew her secret master was indeed merciful. What about that Hyuga girl? She's spying on you again. It's clear she has a thing for you. I bet she uses her eyes in a very naughty manner, said Anko, as she sensed the girl on a nearby rooftop watching them, and sensed jealousy for being so close towards the blonde. Naruto-kun looks so handsome. I just wish that Snake Bimbo would stay away from him. No doubt she's only talking to him in order to get into his pants for that wonderful thing that's there. Must resist abducting and raping Naruto-kun, thought Hinata, as she used her eyes to watch them, but focused mostly on Naruto, and accidentally pushed her vision too far so she saw through his clothing. She went flying back via nosebleed projection, and yet, no one knew. Strange. No doubt. She's not like the other girls in my class. Most are Uchiha fangirls, but not her, and I can sense she is strong for age. Just shy in bringing it out, said Naruto seeing Anko's smirk knowing a perverted quip was on the way. That Hyuga girl has something she wants to bring out, but something tells me she will only show you, and if any of the rumors about Hyuga women are indeed accurate, they are indeed something to behold, said Anko, knowing there were rumors about how well-developed Hyuga women were and highly guarded among the clan because of their stunning beauty. That and they develop nice busts into their teen years. And when she's ready I'll accept her gift, though I would have to explain certain things with us, said Naruto, knowing that even if Hinata were to accept what he had done with Anko, it may require the help of his bloodline to make it happen, and he didn't even know if it would work on her. And Ayame-chan, said Anko, not wanting him to forget about the ramen girl that could scream like no tomorrow under their skilled tongues. And Ayame-chan, said Naruto, agreeing with Anko. Trust me, Kit, your bloodline cannot be blocked by others like the Byakugan, or the Uchiha's Sharingan, said Kyuubi simply. Really? Awesome. What if I use it on a guy? Said Naruto, with the Kyuubi being silent for a moment. Please tell me you're not considering the idea of playing for both sides, said Kyuubi, with Naruto physically stopping and scowling at hearing the fox's words. No, I like girls. I like their, and everything else that gives them their Y figure. Hell, I made the jutsu to give perverts nosebleeds, and had hot lesbian with Anko using it. Remember, thought Naruto, as he had used the time with seeing Anko and Ayame to perfect the jutsu. If that wasn't perverse, then Naruto didn't know what was. Oh, right. My bad. Wait, why do you want to know if you can use it on guys? Said Kyuubi, though as long it wasn't for gay activity like Sasuke he was okay with it. Because I may have to should I get caught and need a means to divert guys away from my pervert activities. I am not going to share my girls with these guys, who clearly don't know how to please women due to them being so angry and unsatisfied by their lack of passion. Look at the Cyclops guy. Reads porn when he could probably get some easily with his shinobi status, thought Naruto, seeing Kyuubi think for a minute and then nod in agreement. Point taken. In the old days I could have screwed any lady I wanted simply by telling them I was a demon lord with my 9 tails proving it. You know how many women have given themselves to me simply by knowing that title alone? A lot. Said Kyuubi, knowing Kakashi was indeed a famous Junin from the last Shinobi War and could have swarms of women wishing to at least share his bed for one night. You didn't answer my question, thought Naruto, seeing the fox look sheepish. Oh, right. Well, if you use on guys, which better be for pranks, or missions requiring information extraction, then I would say it is possible. For example, if you wanted to manipulate guys to do something stupid they normally wouldn't do before, then your eyes can make it happen, and make it so they don't know you made them, said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto nod in thought. So if I wanted, say, to use my eyes on Kiba and make him sleep in the Inuzuka kneel while covered in peanut butter, it would work. Thought Naruto, seeing Kyuubi think for a second. Provided his dog didn't stop you. Then yes, said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto smirking. That's all I wanted to know. Thanks, Fox. Thought Naruto before focusing on the outer world around him. You okay? You spaced out for a second, said Anko worriedly. Yeah, just having an internal discussion with someone about my eyes, said Naruto, with his grin becoming almost evil looking. I take it from your grin it was a good discussion, said Anko, almost feeling scared at the sight of the grin despite herself mirroring it. Let me put it to you this way, Anko-chan. Lots of people in Konoha are going to be very humiliated soon, said Naruto while rubbing his hands in an evil and conspiring manner. Many people soon had shivers run down their spines in fright. Sweet, said Anko, as she would have her camera ready to capture it all, and further make the idiots around them be placed under their thumb with blackmail. The days soon turned to weeks, which soon turned to months, until finally the day of the graduation exam at the academy was upon Naruto, and the boy was excited. During all the time he was at the academy, the young blonde had held onto the Rookie of the Year title with an iron grip despite the Uchiha and teachers trying to break his grip. They tried cheating, threats, and the most lamest excuses to deduct points off the kid's scores. Still, the scores had to go to the Hokage for review, which he overturned for the slightest, and possibility the most stupidest reasons for the teachers to deduct points. 5 points off for finishing tests too early. 10 for finishing late. If the Sandame wasn't risking a severe stroke or heart attack from this, then he would seriously do a lot of yelling. There were even some for sneezing. Some for blinking. It was absurd, and it was high time for the teachers at the academy to know it would not go unpunished. Stacy. Cancel classes at the academy today for the oldest students at the academy this year and bring me their teachers. All of them. That includes the headmaster, said the third, as he had much to think about during Naruto's time being trained by Anko, and it had hit him with an epiphany of sorts. Naruto, according to Anko's reports, had shown incredible potential that up until her own hands got a hold of, had been practically squandered, and wasted at the academy where the instructors tried to suppress it. She told the Sandame that if he really wanted to honor the Yondaime's dying wish, as he himself had told others too, then the Hokage should get off his butt, and make everyone know why he was the Hokage of Konoha in the first place. So when the instructors came into the Hokage's office, not knowing what to expect in speaking the fire shadow, they were surprised when the doors shut, and were locked from inside the room by a button under the Hokage's desk. With an audible click that made them know they were trapped, the instructors looked from the locked doors to the Hokage looking at them with hands connected with each other while in front of his face, and he did not look pleased. It was time for the Sandame Hokage to drop the hammer on these fools. Academy rooftop. I can't believe we got out of classes today, said Choji sitting with Shikamaru on the roof watching clouds with Naruto. Troublesome. We both know they have nothing left to teach us, Choji. What better way for them to get paid without doing anything, than to simply let us have a free day, and do nothing? It must be a union thing, said Shikamaru sighing while looking at the clouds. I don't know. Those teachers didn't look like they were supposed to let us go free today. Even if they didn't have anything to teach, don't they get paid more to have the class in session, and not out? Said Naruto, seeing Shikamaru frown for a second before shrugging again. Who knows? I don't. It's too troublesome to think about anyway. Besides, why bother worrying over that when watching clouds is better, and less stressful? Said Shikamaru, seeing Naruto snicker. You are such a sloth, Shikamaru, said Naruto, seeing the Nara mutter, troublesome, again before looking up at the clouds in the sky. There you bakas are, said Ino, finding the trio on the roof with Shikamaru now groaning at being discovered by her while Choji continued eating chips. Hey Ino, what's up? Said Naruto, sitting up more to see her better. Nothing much for you to concern yourself with, baka. I was just searching for my future team is all. After some arm twisting mix with my female charms, my dad told me I'd most likely get teamed with these two, and form the new generation of Ino Shikacho, said Ino, seeing Shikamaru let out another groan and called his dad an idiot for agreeing with his friends to get their wives pregnant around the same time for this to happen. To be you, Shikamaru. You too, Choji, said Naruto, seeing Ino's face turn red with steam coming out of it. What did you just say? Said Ino, glaring at Naruto with the male blonde shrugging. Nothing much. Just that you are being bossy. These two don't like being bossed around, and it's going to hurt your team dynamics, said Naruto, seeing the three of them looking at him like he had 3 tails of Kyuubi's chakra running out of his body. Did he? No. Though it was a good thing to check, since he was so used to being around it so much that he wouldn't know unless he saw it with his own eyes. Well, so what if I'm bossy? I have to move these two lazy bums. One sits there just eating and the other sleeps with his eyes open. Literally. Out of all 3 of us, one has to be awake, and keep them in line, said Ino, not wanting to admit that maybe, just maybe, Naruto had a small point, and that she needed to be nicer. If only slightly. I see. Hey guys, give us a minute, and leave us to talk. I think we fellow blondes need to talk in private so she can think clearly, said Naruto, seeing Choji, Shikamaru, and Ino looking at him in surprise. You sure, Naruto? Said Shikamaru, as he had seen what Ino could do to boys when she got angry, and couldn't believe the wedgie she gave Kiba last month after the boy pulled a gross prank on her by letting Akamaru pee on her lap. I got it covered. Don't worry, said Naruto calmly, knowing how to remedy this. Okay. Come on, Choji. I'll buy you some new snacks since it's too troublesome to figure out what these two are going to talk about, said Shikamaru, leaving with a happy Choji following. So what do you have to say that will make me think clearly? And don't pull anything, Naruto Baka. Kiba Baka is still walking awkward after what I did to him, said Ino with eyes watching Naruto cautiously, knowing the blonde was a whole other ball game when it came to pranks than Kiba. People were still talking about the prank on Mizuki somehow getting his head shaved with the words, secretly in the closet, tattooed on his forehead without anyone knowing how Naruto did it. I won't. I just have two simple words that will open your eyes and make you think like a proper shinobi should, said Naruto, grinning slightly, and Ino's eyes were now more alert than ever. 2 words, huh? What 2 words could possibly work on me? Said Ino, while a part of her mind was telling her not to look at him, but she ignored it due to curiosity, and was shocked when Naruto's eyes changed purplish with that sparkled look to them. Submission eye, said Naruto, seeing the glazed look in Ino's eyes, and knew he had her. Moving ahead of schedule are we? Said Kyuubi, knowing the girl was not ready to be claimed by Naruto. Just pushing her in the right direction to get stronger before we do anything, Kyuubi. She's not like Sakura, but if we don't do anything, Ino will be skinny, weak, and most likely be killed, if not worse, by enemy shinobi, thought Naruto, seeing the fox nod in agreement. Point taken. Do your thing, but hurry so no one knows what you're doing, and getting caught, said Kyuubi, knowing that doing this in public was indeed a big risk. Ino-chan, can you hear me? If you can, call me Naruto-kun, and nod your head, said Naruto, not wanting her to unknowingly call him Naruto Baka during this hypnotic programming. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Ino before nodding. Good. Now, Ino-chan, I want you to listen carefully, because what I say is extremely important, and involves your life in being a shinobi, said Naruto, seeing Ino nod again. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Ino, while looking like she would hear anything he told her. Excellent. Now, Ino-chan, being a shinobi takes a lot of hard work and skill to become famous like your parents. What you also need is trust in your teammates, which is what made your parents work so well together, and so famous in their own right. For that to work with you, Shikamaru, and Choji, then you need to be less bossy while being more encouraging of them. Push them, but in a nice way, and only be fierce when it's required. If you act bossy around them all the time, then they might resent you, and kami forbid they perform some form of coup in the team dynamics. You don't want that, do you? Said Naruto, seeing Ino shake her head with a worried look on her face. No, Naruto-kun. I want Shikamaru and Choji to be my friends, said Ino, while Naruto put a gentle hand on her face. Good. Next, we need to talk about your body, and how it's too skinny. I know you're just being concerned with your figure getting too face, but you can exercise to keep any fat from you eat off your body, and turn it into strong, useful muscles to be put to use in the field. Trust me, I know. I can eat anything I want, and all I have to do is train hard to keep myself from getting fat. Doesn't that sound fun? Said Naruto, seeing Ino nod, and knew the programming would install a strong shinobi presence in her. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Ino, as her programming made the girl realizing dieting was not helping in getting stronger, but in fact weaker, and didn't want to be a waste of space. Good. From now on, eat whatever your heart desires, but balance it out with exercise and shinobi training. Possibly taijutsu. At the same time, bond with your future team so they trust you more. Apologize for being bossy, but state you're only doing it out of fear of being in your father's shadow, and that you want your team to succeed, said Naruto, seeing Ino nod in understanding. I will do that, Naruto-kun. Thank you for your help, said Ino with a smile on her face, with a hint of drool threatening to come out. You're most welcome, Ino-chan. In exchange for this helpful information, there will one day come a time when I will collect from this favor, and you will do whatever it is I ask without question. Understand? Anything I want, you will do for me, and without guilt of doing it because you are being honorable, said Naruto, seeing Ino nod with glazed eyes, showing signs of the hypnotic programming was still working. Clever. Very clever kid, said Kyuubi, knowing the girl would do whatever Naruto asked and then by that point would be ready to bring into his group. When I deactivate my bloodline, you will remember everything we spoke about, and yet won't tell anyone about my bloodline because it's a secret that needs to stay a secret for now, said Naruto, seeing Ino nod dumbly, and deactivated his bloodline to bring the girl out of his hypnotic gaze. Thanks for the help, Naruto-kun. Even if you are a baka sometimes, you know what you're talking about when it counts, and give good advice, said Ino, whole not realizing she had called him Naruto-kun, and was actually not having the urge to hit him like Sakura did, though she missed all the time these days. Anytime though, remember what we talked about regarding your words when insulting people, as they could be your teammates one day, and they could hold a grudge, said Naruto, giving her a pointed look and made her smile sheepishly. Right. Sorry. I'm going to find my future teammates and get to know them better before I ask my dad for some additional training, said Ino, as she felt a sudden need to train more, and get stronger, while the thoughts of eating food she would normally never eat to keep her weight down entered. That's the spirit, Ino-chan, said Naruto before spinning her around and slapping Herta the door, making the girl yelp at such a perverse move. Yet for some reason Ino didn't yet know, she had actually enjoyed being slapped there, and even more when the reality of the fact it was Naruto's hand hit her rear end. Watch it, pervert. You're lucky I got good advice from you, or I'd kick you right where it hurts most for boys, said Ino, though it was clear she didn't mean all of the threat. I'll remember that, said Naruto, watching Ino go, and went in his own direction to see the Hokage to mooch some free ramen from him. Hokage Tower, outside the Hokage's office. Naruto walked casually up to the doors of the Hokage's office, as he heard what sounded like demonic screaming from behind the shut doors, and saw the secretary was cowering in fear. Smirking at the sight, Naruto wondered if this was the reason behind the teachers canceling his age group's classes for the day, and judging from the squeaky voices now begging for mercy behind the doors, it was a possibility. This is your fault, said the secretary Stacy, as she looked out behind her desk, and glared at Naruto. Of course. Everything is my fault. Just by breathing the air around you, I bring about the end of the world one day closer to becoming a reality, and damn all the so-called innocent souls who coincidentally hate my guts. You don't like me. Tough. You chose this job, so it up and it right. Otherwise, hand in your resignation, and get the out of here, bitch, said Naruto, seeing Stacy become angry at his words, and rose from her desk to smack him. Demon filth, said Stacy, moving to strike him, but the hand she was using was caught by Naruto, and yanked her forward before grabbing the woman by the throat. Listen and listen well, bitch. If you ever try to lay a hand on me again, I'll cut those fake tits off, and staple them to your. You cross me and I'll make you bleed in ways and in holes you never thought possible. Got it, said Naruto, making his eyes turn crimson like Kyuubi's by using the fox's chakra and scaring the woman almost out of her clothes. Almost. She wasn't that pretty, and neither were her fake. Yes, said Stacy, as she cowered in fear of him, and he threw her back against the desk before the doors opened with whimpering teachers leaving the Hokage's office. Good. Excuse me. I'm going to talk to my surrogate grandfather now. Remember, bitch, cross me like you just did, and you'll regret it, said Naruto before walking into the room where the Hokage was drinking sake, and smoking his pipe to further enjoy letting out the anger he unleashed upon those idiots. Konoha Academy graduation day. Naruto smiled at the two teachers in front of him, as he had known, and tormented them well during his time at the academy. Yumino Iruka was pranked nicely by Naruto, while Mizuki was, well, he was pranked to an untold level of humiliation because of his dislike for the blonde. Pictures surfaced of the teacher doing certain things, which got him sent to the Hokage's office for an explanation, the loss of his girlfriend, and basically people questioning his utility. Not to mention his preference in terms of being with things other than the human species, which basically killed the man's social life, night life, and any kind of life within the leaf. Okay Naruto. All you have to do left is perform the clone jutsu and make 3 clones, said Iruka seeing Naruto grin. No problem. Shadow clone jutsu, said Naruto, as he made 3 clones, and all 3 of them giving mock salutes. Shadow clones. Naruto, how did you learn that jutsu? Said Iruka while missing Mizuki seething at Naruto becoming victorious in passing. Simple. I was having problems using the clone jutsu due to having so much chakra and so little control. I tried chakra control exercises, but I kept getting more chakra flooding me faster than I could gain control, and I couldn't make a proper clone. I told the Hokage that I needed some other variation that suited my massive reserves of chakra and he was able to teach me the shadow clone jutsu, said Naruto seeing Iruka was impressed, but Mizuki was livid, and wanted to make the boy suffer. Too bad. You made the wrong kind of clone. You fail boy, said Mizuki glaring at Naruto while the boy raised an eyebrow. Actually Mizuki, we do allow substi.